Okay, something a bit different today. We are doing a What's in the Box special. A couple months back, I'd seen a Kickstarter campaign for something called the ROTO-Q 360 and had decided to fund it at an accelerated level that gave me an accessory basket, and then waited and waited and waited, and it passed the first couple of dates. Of course, a lot of this was disrupted by the pandemic in terms of supply chain, especially when they're being imported from the Far East. I received the first shipping label back in early November. And then it sat for a long time. And they finally posted some updates about that there were some delays with the black color there. I think there's a copper color, a stainless steel one that's more recent, the black one, and I think a couple of others. I'd chosen the black one mainly just because really of ease of cleaning. Stainless steel will be tough to maintain, or at least in my opinion. It's still, again, coated metal on this side. It should be fine. But the black kits apparently had shipped originally without a drip tray that was supposed to be included, so they had to hold off on those. Well, that's fine. I will say that I was rather frustrated with the lack of information from the ROTO-Q folks. I know it's a Kickstarter campaign. Your support for it, your pledge, doesn't guarantee that you ever receive the product. In fact, some of these campaigns do fail. They never make it past the initial stages. But this one, we were getting campaign updates. Some people received them, other people didn't. And it seemed very haphazard. So I finally asked for clarification on why my shipping label had been sitting there for over a month. Didn't get any response. Finally made enough noise to where I got a response after my shipping label was unceremoniously canceled. And this was, again, after the black units started shipping. That frustrated me because, again, there should have been some outreach to customers. That's one of the 101s in terms of any business, whether you're a startup or whether you're an established, is to keep in good communication with your customer base. So then I finally did get an email, said it was going to be shipping in the next couple of weeks, kept getting those stalls, and then finally it did say out of nowhere, I got a shipping label. And I did get an email saying that it would be shipping within the following week. It did, and it did arrive last night, actually. So the weird thing is I seem to have gotten two packages, not one. So I'm not sure if one of these is maybe the accessory kit and the other is the actual ROTO-Q unit. Again, this is a rotisserie system for any type of grill or oven. It'd be good for doing kebabs, absolutely. Small batches of wings, although I prefer to cook wings on bagel racks and cooling racks and so on. But there are some neat things about it. I'm thinking maybe even since it has a 5-pound capacity, the rotisserie might support maybe things like shawarma, maybe pastor, a lot of other neat little things that do require that rotisserie, including maybe even some gyro meat combined with lamb and beef and whatnot. So I have no idea what's going to be in the box. I've heard mixed reviews on some of the message boards, on the Facebook groups about the ROTO-Q. Some say it is amazing, build quality is great. Others say there's some things left to be desired. When I funded it, it was a good price point. I think it was roughly $90 for total investment, including shipping. I'll be content with it if it just gets the job done sort of well. But the customer service at this point has been haphazard. I don't know why I've got two boxes, but let's go ahead and see what we've got here. So in terms of opening it, boxes are logoed, which is good for a startup business. You want people to see your logo. They seem to be very sturdy. Taping was definitely done by man, not machine. Taped maybe almost too well, but that's not really a bad thing. I would rather them err on the side of caution, especially with the way shipping seems to go nowadays. Again, I will note on both units, it does note that it is the black color, 12 pounds gross weight, case dimensions. It's identical. So I'm wondering if they inadvertently shipped me a pair of units and not just a single unit, or if they forgot to ship everything that I needed in terms of the accessory kit. So you do get what appears to be like a Silpat mat, which of course will go inside the drip pan. Packaging is actually not bad, and there is the accessory kit. I think they may have shipped me 2 units. Meat basket, skewers, hot dog rollers. Quality is, it's okay. It feels a little flimsy. It reminds me of the Ron Popeil rotisserie grill. For those of you that remember the set it and forget it craze, I actually received one of those as a gift once, and the thing actually made halfway decent in your house prime rib. I don't see an instruction manual, so I know that there are some PDF copies online. I will need to be able to take this apart, of course, and get access to all the pieces inside. Wash them thoroughly before I use it. A little dusty, but again, that's also to be expected. These things have been shipped halfway across the planet. There is a basket that's in here. I've seen a lot of people use this for doing wings. Literally, you could roast chestnuts on an open fire with this. It looks like some of the pieces in terms of the actual gears that help in terms of the winding are in here. So, kind of interesting. The next level, these are, of course, the rotisserie rods that help hold things in place. And so far, again, packed well, packed professionally. This is the drip tray. Again, you can see, if you can pick it up in the light, that it is in fact logoed. It is a debossed, well actually embossed, I guess technically, raised on the front side that says ROTO-Q 360, so good branding on their part. And as far as everything else down inside the unit, we have what it looks like the motor core. The actual, a normal, a basic rotisserie. This is going to be the rod that actually winds or cranks the motor unit. Not sure what this is. Looks like an end cap that probably goes in the motor unit. Instructions probably should have been placed on top. And if they've got them digitally, I get it. The printing costs do get excessive for this type of thing. But most people out of the box don't want to go hunting around a website. And here's the ROTO-Q base, it looks like. Okay, so after a bit of YouTube detective work, figured out how to make this thing work. Some of it is intuitive. I was probably a little frustrated by the fact that the instructions just weren't there. Printing costs can add up, depending on how many units they're moving. I get it. My personal preference is always to have it in front of me rather than have to go watch a series of 2.5 to 3 minute videos. But once you figure it out, everything tends to fall in place. It's a similar design for each step. I will note that they did apparently include some locking tabs, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't think the drip tray fit. It's a very simple process. You just slide these things into place. They click. These were not included on the original models, and apparently they came up with some workarounds, and now they've got these pieces in place, and it does make it, you know, again, to support a 5-pound weight, it's quite sturdy. The drip pan, once those clips are in place, fits neatly. As far as the winding mechanism itself, you can see it's a very straightforward mechanical system. It does intuitively go on one side because there are clips that will guide you into place, and it locks firmly. You know, if I were to be worried about the fact that there's some wobble here, it would be solved by simply including the actual spit unit itself. Once that's in place, my understanding, if I'm reading, if I'm listening to the videos properly, is you simply wind. You can hear it, again, it's like an old school clock. You wind the sucker up. Let's see here, there should be a go mechanism. And there you go. Some users have reported that the sound wants to make them stab themselves in the face. My perspective on this would be that it's going to be outside. The noise of the fan running on my pellet smoker will drown it out. And again, I'm going to be inside for most of the cook. It's not bad. The number of winds it takes, again, I think that this device, the winding, the crank, is a much better idea than just a knob situation. Probably less fatigue on the hands, but it gets the job done. It's a nice slow pace, assuming that it maintains, you know, that pace throughout the entirety of the cycle. It's going to do a good job. Now, to turn it off, you simply press in. I did assemble the other baskets. The first one took, you know, once I watched the video, took a couple of tries to make sure I got everything lined up the right way. But everything thereafter is a really simple system. This is the sausage rack. Lines up pretty intuitively, just like it should. They've got a simple system, and maybe most of us are geared towards things being arbitrarily complex. This isn't. Again, once you load those in, you load your sausages, your hot dogs, and it's like you're at 7-Eleven at 3 o'clock in the morning wanting a hot dog. I load this thing up with some marinated pork for souvlaki and so on, put it on a pita. I like the idea of it. Putting these things on skewers, again, holds 10 skewers. They're smaller size. One with sides, like some saffron rice or something, would probably feed people, an individual, so you could actually feed a group. If you wanted to make a whole bunch of stuff, and part of my plan is to use the system with skewers of marinated pork for pastor and pineapple. It's going to have plenty of leftovers, and you can actually feed a decent-sized family. It's sturdy enough. There are some fit and finish issues with the baskets and whatnot. For example, little things, and it's not a huge deal, but the grip handle right here, when you pull it, comes loose, and you can see that when it was bent into place, it was bent kind of irregularly. It's not going to be a failure point, realistically. The basket itself, you've definitely got to reach inside it to be able to unlock the basket. It'd be good for a steak. It'd be good for maybe some veggies and so on. This probably won't get much use. I would prefer to do a reverse sear if it's going to be a piece of beef. Maybe some pork chops. Who knows? Time will tell. The cage, the barrel shape, a little bit better in terms of construction. Sturdier, doesn't have any flex or give. The basket itself opens easily. Would be difficult to do when it's hot. The best bet wouldn't be to use silicone oven mitts because you're not going to have the dexterity to actually pinch. Probably the simplest way is to get a cloth glove, cover it with a cheap plastic glove, a surgical glove, and won't be that bad. So part of the setup for the ROTO-Q, now that I've got it all in place and understand everything based on the manual, is also do a burn off. They use food safe lubricants, of course, to keep the winding mechanism in place. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate it all the way. So at this point, what I'm going to do is set in there with the rotisserie unit in place, go ahead and do the burn off. Did preheat the oven to 350, and I'm going to set a timer to go for 45 minutes and check back. And at that point, and I'm putting a pan in here just in case there are any sort of drippings. At that point, what I'll do is check and make sure that the ROTO-Q is getting the number of rotations that it's marketed to get. So at this point, I'm going to turn it this way so it's easier to access the on-off button. Going to pull the trigger, so to speak. You can see, of course, that the unit is operating as designed. It is a little noisy. It's not going to be bad once it's inside a smoker, but inside the oven, the noise is somewhat muted. If I'm using the TV, it will not be a big issue. All right, so it appears that it has stopped. 58 minutes plus change by my best estimate. Nothing dripped out, and again, no odor whatsoever. Despite my misgivings about the unit itself, or rather about the company that's producing them through communication, the build quality is where it needs to be. Shipping in terms of the actual packing materials and the marketing, other than the lack of instructions, is spot on. So the next time that we pick this up, it will be with a real live fire cook. So see you then.